unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hi, and welcome. It's the last show of the week. Hope you had a nice weekend. You'll learn a bunch of things on tonight's show. We'll cover a lot of topics. Here are just some of them. The 2026 Oscars are this weekend, and in 10 minutes' time, we'll dig into the biggest snubs, surprise contenders, and the movies everyone suddenly pretends they've already seen in advance of the Academy Awards. Then after that, trying to pick a dating app these days feels a bit like choosing a theme park ride. Thrilling, unpredictable, and possibly unsafe. Halfway through the hour, we'll chat about which apps people are swiping on and the not always obvious safety and privacy trade-offs of modern dating. All right, that is a tiny fraction of what we'll cover on the night show. There will be more. You will learn more, but for now, let's dive in.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
And in the news you need to know about, we're not talking about the rising price of oil futures or the war. Instead, we're talking about an announcement made by Tampa International Airport here with Caitlin Green. Spoiler, it involves pajamas and sweatpants. Caitlin, welcome to the show.
I feel like more often than not, the introduction for my segment is like, hey, we could talk about these important things in world news, but here's Caitlin.
Well, that's why you're here. Caitlin's a media personality. She co-hosts the Jan Arden podcast. Boom, introduction done. I believe what Tampa International Airport announced is a prank, but it leads to a conversation that is an important one. They made the announcement saying, we've seen enough, we've had enough. It's time to ban pajamas at the airport in the middle of the day.
And they also said Crocs from before.
Yes, agree.
Yeah.
What is with the level of decorum on a plane since the pandemic happened? Something shifted in our collective consciousness that people just treat flying. Like, I was on a plane the other day, a guy was just walking around barefoot around the plane. I'm like, what are you, nuts? First of all, that carpet is going to give you a fungus. Second of all, disgusting.
Yeah, people are like, they have a weird response to flying that I do think needs to be intensely studied by a team of behavioral scientists in Switzerland or something, because everyone is their worst at an airport. And we know that this is going to be a stressful experience. Flights are canceled. So I feel like the stress response is typically that everyone is going to show up in pajamas, potentially barefoot, maybe clip their nails while they're waiting, get too drunk, have a crash out on the airplane, have like Homeland Security pick them up when they land. The behavior that I see and hear about on planes is just absolutely beyond anything you would do in real life. Like, nobody would behave this way in real life.
It used to be like once a year the internet would grace us with an amazing video of someone too drunk on a plane being removed, you know, screaming at everyone. Hopefully no one's hurt in the video. Now it seems like every week there's a new one.
Yeah.
But the clothing thing, like, I get it if you're flying internationally and the lights are off and it's time for everybody to be sleeping. It's okay to take off your shoes, I guess, if you keep your feet right next to your shoes. And if you get up, you put the shoes back on. I won't do it, but that level of shoes-offery I can handle. I think it's gross. I'm keeping my shoes on the whole flight. That's just me. But the Crocs, I mean, come on. People used to wear suits to get on planes like in the 60s and stuff.
Yeah, and it's almost like we've overcorrected to just a place of everyone almost wearing like nothing. It's crazy because, so this was what they posted. And again, Tampa International Airport, whoever is doing their social media points to you because they do these hilarious posts on social media. Some people buy it. Some people correctly identify these things as pranks. Either way, it gets everybody talking. And so they said that after successfully banning Crocs and giving everyone the amazing opportunity to experience the world's first Croc-free airport, which I love, it's time to take on an even larger crisis, which is pajamas. And the thing with pajamas too, it's one thing if I don't know what you're wearing as pajamas, which is to say, if it's like a chic all black matching set, if it's just sort of like a flowier pant, you know, that's important. If we're talking wide leg flannel pajamas that you've had for 2 years, so they're pilling, and you're wearing them in some cases, I think with like not too supportive undergarments. Let's just say that. Let's just say underwhelmingly supportive undergarments. And you're just walking around the airport with that on and Crocs waiting to go on like a Sunwing flight to the Dominican. It's just call it off. End it all.
Straight to jail. Straight to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
At the very least, they should have like a therapist's office in the airport that you can send people to when they get too drunk and crash out or when they start wearing their depressed on the couch clothes in public. It's time to go see the therapist at the airport and talk about what you're going through before you get on a flight and victimize everyone else on that plane.
I know you're not a Swiss psychologist. Why you chose Switzerland as the country to research this stuff, I'll never know. But what would you do? Would you say there should be a dress code for airplanes? I mean, to me, that's really like over-restricting. But public shame, like what is the fix here? How do we fix this dilemma so the next time I'm on a plane, there isn't a barefoot guy pacing up and down the aisle?
I think it's going to take some grassroots organization a la Mothers Against Drunk Driving, probably the most effective campaign to like reduce drunk driving more so than any form of punishment, like legal punishment ever did. So I think, yes, public shaming has to come into play. We're seeing a bit of it. You know, people will take photos and videos of people who are looking gross and acting gross and then post them on social. And then everyone kind of piles on in the comments. So there's like a bit of it happening. But I do think, yeah, the official social accounts for airports need to start engaging in this and calling out the bad travelers because it's enough's enough. And on the podcast, on the Jan Arden podcast, we're actually conceptualizing a weekly segment because as you pointed out earlier, there is enough content of people behaving badly on planes. To provide you with content for a weekly segment, we want to do a segment that says, I would rather sit next to a crying baby than a drunk adult. Because so many people, like, everyone maligns a little baby for crying because their eustachian tubes hurt when the pressure changes in an airplane. Meanwhile, you've got some guy peeing in the aisle because he's drunk and yelling at a flight attendant, which is a thing that's actually happened.
I moved across the country and brought my cat with me, and he was meowing the whole flight, and people were giving us the stink eye. And I thought, how many times have I been on a plane with a dog barking, a cat meowing, a baby crying, and you're just like, people got to live their lives. They got to travel. How else are they going to get their baby from point A to point B? I don't like sitting next to a crying baby, but I would never shame a parent for it or worse still, yell at a parent for it.
Oh my gosh.
But what about a dress code? You know, like you see a sign outside of a restaurant, no shirt, no shoes, no service.
Yes.
Why not on the plane, closed-toed shoes, do not take off your socks? Like,
yes.
Is it so hard to have simple rules like that?
This should be allowed on every single flight. You have to your clothing has to stay on your person. You can't start to disrobe mid-flight. You can't take your socks off. You can't have bare feet on the footrest of the person in front of you. I feel like they should hand out, they're not going to, like little cotton socks to the people who show up barefoot or try to become barefoot on a flight and say, here you go. Here you go, everyone, because you're out in public and I don't want to see your warts. I don't want to see your calluses. It's gross. And I think that would do it. Like if a flight attendant just came over and was like, here you go, then I think hopefully people would get the idea.
There's an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm, which is Larry David, the creator of Seinfeld show. Everyone knows that. Don't know why I defined it for you, but whatever. He's on a plane next to a guy with just regular shorts on, but he's got hairy legs. And Larry's like, wear long pants. No one wants to see that. And I'm like, totally agree. I don't even think people should wear shorts on a plane.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like mostly for me, I just don't think these situations are comfortable. Like, I don't think I would be comfortable legs out on a flight. I don't think I would be comfortable in my pajamas on a flight. I don't want to have bare feet on the carpet of an airplane. I'm the person who comes with like a little pack of sanitizing wipes and I do the full treatment to my seat. Because if you've ever done that and looked at the surface of that wipe after, it is not the same color as it was when you took it out of the package. It's disgusting. So I don't know why you're taking your shoes off there anyways.
I think we solved a lot covering this Tampa airport announcement. Side note, Tampa, nope, not a reason to visit there, but if they can just have a really sassy airport social media account, I mean, we're talking about Tampa. Why else would we talk? Normally it's Florida man. That would be the only reason. So this is like a positive thing coming out of Florida. They're doing everything right.
I agree. And also, you have to think that the Tampa airport must really see some critters. So maybe that's why they're doing this.
When we come back, it's the 98th Academy Awards. I promise we'll cover something of substance. Caitlin and I will talk about some of these nominated movies. How many have you seen, listener? That is the question. We'll be back. It's the Academies coming up next weekend. We'll discuss it with Caitlin Green in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Maybelline Serum Lipstick. Maybe it's not just lipstick. It's lush color with endless possibilities. It's serum infused with a hyaluronic acid and oil blend for 8-hour plumping moisture in tone-enhancing shades. It's more than the shade. It's who's wearing it. You. New Maybelline Serum Lipstick. Maybe it's Maybelline.
Broadcasting intimate details and useless information from an undisclosed location in New York City. The Last Show with David Cooper.
The 98th Academy Awards are next weekend, the Oscars, and we're here to discuss that and more with media personality and co-host of the Jan Arden podcast, Caitlin Green. Caitlin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is my Super Bowl coming up. I'm so excited for the Oscars. I live for this awards show every single year. I know some people roll their eyes, and I do too. I know it's too long. I don't care. I just absolutely love it.
I actually don't watch it, however.
Oh my gosh, David.
I watch clips the next day. I'm not watching the whole thing.
Okay.
But my girlfriend every year enters an Oscar pool, like a fantasy football, but you know what I'm talking about,
yep.
With her friends. And so she has to see everything in order to do well in this. Mm-hmm. And so I see most of it with her. And it's been kind of fun just getting that list of what critics think and what the Academy thinks. I mean, who is the Academy anyway? What they think of. That was a rhetorical question. I'm sure there is an answer.
There is.
But I mean, you can give me the answer if you want. But just seeing the list of what they think is great and going through that list with her is actually a great joy. And so in some sense, I love the Oscars because it gives me an excuse to be current and watch most of these movies. Do you watch most of them?
I try to. Usually what happens is I watch like the big ones or the one that's by like a specific director or has like a lead actor I'm really into, and I'll go see those first. And then when I come down to the wire on awards show lead up, I start to crush through all of them. So that's the stage that I'm at now. I have to start watching all of them. Some of them I don't want to watch. Like the F1 movie was nominated for Best Picture. It wasn't nominated for a heck of a lot else. And when they expanded the Best Picture nomination to up to 10 films each year, they just sort of started throwing random ones in, and this feels like one of those. So I don't think I'm going to see F1. I don't think it's going to win. So that might be one that I duck out on. But the rest of them I want to see. I don't think I can see Hamnet. Hamnet seems like something that's just going to make me absolutely sob and cry.
Bring Kleenex.
Yeah. I think as a parent, I can't see it because it's spoiler alert to anyone who doesn't know what it's about.
Loss of a child, yeah.
It involves the loss of a child, and I just don't think I can sit through that. There's enough going on in the world. I don't need that bummer.
I'm so with you on F1. I remember, 6, 7, 8 years ago, the movie Ford versus Ferrari that won Best.
Yeah.
And I got burned because everyone's like, okay, it's a car movie, but it's great. And it won Best Picture. And I thought, okay, great, I'll watch it.
Did it win?
I think it did win.
No.
It was nominated.
It was nominated.
Okay,
it did not win.
All right.
Ford v Ferrari did. No, these are the dad car movies. These are car movies for dads, and they feature actors that dads are really excited about. And I love this. If you're a dad who's excited about F1 or Ford v Ferrari, then have at it. I just don't believe that it belongs in the same category as like Sinners.
You're right. It didn't win. It won Best Film Editing. And I was looking at it online before our interview, and I just saw Best Film. And I'm like, okay, well, that means it won. But no, it wasn't good. It was a bad movie, Ford versus Ferrari. For me, it was boring, and it was like, oh, engines, pistons, great, racetrack.
Yes,
and I'm like, not for me. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to drink the haterade on the movie Sinners.
Nice, okay,
I
go for it.
liked it. It was fun, but I did not love it. Nothing in it stood out as great to me. I just, that's the thing. I need like a reason to think something is great. For me, everything was good. It was a lot of fun. It was a good watch. Would recommend. But it has like 16 nominations. It may win Best Picture. People love it. I'm sure you, did you love it?
I didn't love it as much as some people did. I really liked it. I'm closer to you, I think, than I am to it being like the best picture of the year. But it was really, really good. And I think one sort of criticism that has been lobbed at the Academy and the Oscars for so long is that they're out of touch with the movies that the people really like. They go to all these, kind of artsy darlings, and everyone's like, hey, but my favorite summer blockbuster never wins Best Picture. And I think that's sort of a non-argument. But I think that this is one of those films that straddles being both good, like, and technically quite good, and Ryan Coogler being this great director and having good performances, and friggin' everyone's seen it. It made a ton of money, and I think they want to engage people with the movie industry and with awards again, and so I think that's part of why it's had this big success in the nominations. But it is absolutely not even close to One Battle After Another. That might be my favorite movie of all time.
Really?
Yeah, it might be. It might be my number one.
I just saw it last night. I literally saw it last night, like Sunday night.
Okay, and?
I liked it.
Okay.
But again, it just didn't have anything stand out for me, and I found it a little confusing.
You did?
Just a little confusing.
Oh, I was so locked in from minute one. I was so invested. The performances were so good and layered, and the story moved in so many amazing directions, yet tied together. And it's a long movie, man, as you know, having just seen it. I went to see it in theaters. I barely found a moment to go pee. I was that enthralled with it from the moment I sat down, which is impossible to do with like a 3-hour runtime.
Well, I did like that Leonardo DiCaprio basically played like, I don't know, like a vigilante freedom fighter meets the dude, like he's running around in his bathrobe. I liked that genre mashup, that he had the sensibilities of like The Big Lebowski meets, I don't know, like I'm trying to think of a movie with like freedom fighters or like fighters against an oppressive regime and, you know, guerrilla warfare. I was like, that is such a funny combination, that he's just running around in his bathrobe. Meanwhile, he's like fighting an oppressive government and like racist people and things like that.
And like the Benicio del Toro's character and what he did with that, with the limited amount of screen time he had, like it does such a great job of being like powerful and funny and making fun of the right things and talking about current topics. And it's so friggin' good. And Paul Thomas Anderson is probably one of my favorite directors of all time. So that's it for me. That's all. That's the number one.
It was slightly ahead of its time. Like some of the political issues in the U.S. where I live with like ICE and Homeland Security and all this stuff. This movie was written just before some of the things we're seeing now, but it comments on them rather, I don't know, strongly. And so that was kind of cool. I was kind of shocked by how current it was, even though it was, I assume, written a couple years ago. Like these things don't get made overnight.
It's fantastic. It's just so well done. If you haven't seen it and you're listening to this, I really recommend you do. And now, have you seen Marty Supreme?
I have not yet. I'm seeing it this week. Okay. Can we talk about Begonia?
Yes, we can talk about Begonia.
I loved it. No one else loved it but me.
Yeah, I didn't love it. I thought it was fine. But again, parts of it I found it a little bit, the director's name is Yorgos Lanthimos, and I found it very him. It was too Yorgosy. Mm-hmm. It was too like gross for gross sake, weird for weird sake. Like he's becoming a little bit, to me, a little bit of a caricature of himself, because when I think about how he started making movies really, or like, you know, kind of that he was well known for when he did The Favorite, also with Emma Stone, who's like in most of his films now. I think it had more story and more substance to it. And this one kind of lost me a bit.
And Poor Things as well, where Emma Stone is naked the whole time. I liked it because it was weird. I love sci-fi. It had like a weird alien twist to it. I thought it was really fun, but I'm a sci-fi junkie. And it wasn't like that sci-fi, but if you just have anything with aliens in it for me, that is like not the movie Aliens.
It's definitely good. It's just, to me, it's not Best Picture. But again, I land more in my typical favorites of something like One Battle After Another.
I just love when someone who's like a mainstream actor dips into the weird, like Emma Stone does. Like, I don't know what she's doing with her career, but she's just doing weirder and weirder and weirder stuff. And I love that. I mean, she could have gone completely in the other direction.
She could have just done rom-coms forever, and she just chose these like cool little projects.
Love it. I love when it just feels like she's a really creative actor. She chooses creative projects. I felt like it was a creative movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's still really good. It just, like, to me, wasn't numero uno, but I still think it's definitely worth seeing. And I do want to see Marty Supreme, but I want to add that Timothée Chalamet is doing an epically bad press run for somebody who wants to win Best Actor right now. And because he has recently lost out on some key awards that are indicators for who might win Best Actor, he's lost out on them to a few other people, but he lost one recently to Michael B. Jordan of Sinners at the SAG Actor Awards. And now he's gone on this, like, he's making a lot of appearances, obviously promoting Marty Supreme, and he just called ballet and opera overrated.
I know.
Like, he basically just publicly called ballet and opera irrelevant And it's such a weird, unnecessary take that makes you yourself seem incredibly uncultured while you're dating a Kardashian.
Exactly. And it's not, ballet and opera could use good press. He's right to say that these art forms are like struggling. I mean, filling seats at an opera theater or a symphony or a ballet house is not easy. But it's like, this is art that's been with humanity, Western culture for 300 years. Don't kill it. Okay?
I agree. Because like we live in a world now where there's like betting happening on catastrophic World War III. And that's considered entertainment for people. So I don't like opera and ballet catching strays from Timmy Chalamet.
What do you think Best Picture is going to be?
I think it's going to be one battle after another, honestly.
I think so too. Maybe Sinners. All right, Caitlin Green, media personality. Check her out on the Jan Arden podcast. Caitlin, it's been a joy having you here. Thanks for your time.
As always.
Coming up next, picking a dating app. It isn't just about chemistry anymore. There's a whole safety strategy behind your swipe. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show, and we'll break down dating apps for you in a moment.
This episode is brought to you by Peloton. Break through the busiest time of year with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus. Powered by Peloton IQ. With real-time guidance and endless ways to move, you can personalize your workouts and train with confidence, helping you reach your goals in less time. Let yourself run, lift, sculpt, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Broadcasting from the neutral zone, where every perspective gets diplomatic immunity. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
How safe is your dating app? Swiping for love doesn't come with a risk management manual, but a new research project seeks to help you map the safety landscape of online dating. Since figuring out what app is safest for you is not always the easiest task. So let's dive in and discuss all this with health professor at the University of Waterloo, Diana Parry. Diana, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
When most people think of dating apps, they think of the fun stuff like awkward bios, questionable selfies, not really risk management. What started making you look at these apps through that lens, the safety lens?
Well, my research team and I have been studying dating apps for a number of years now. And while we did hear a lot about the positives associated with dating apps, so the convenience of meeting people, the diversity of people that you could meet, meeting people that you wouldn't normally meet, we also were hearing about a lot of harms that people were experiencing. And so we really wanted to understand that more and look at ways that we could mitigate some of those risks for people.
So you talk to users of many different dating apps, you hear their stories. What kind of experiences kept coming up again and again that makes you think, okay, there's a bit of a pattern here when it comes to safety?
Yeah, so our research started with 48 interviews with people from across Canada that represented a very diverse representation of Canadians. And we heard a lot of things around people getting unsolicited pictures, unsolicited videos, when they had expressed a firm no, I'm not interested, still being pursued by people even though they didn't want that. So all sorts of different ways that people were being dealing with like things online that they hadn't necessarily expected or wanted.
It's kind of an ugly thing that people just expect harassment or boundary violations on these apps. Is that kind of a norm? Maybe not with everyone, but something that goes on and most people experience?
Well, actually, I do think it's everyone. We, across the board, everybody that we talk to, regardless of age, race, gender, in our study, a group of participants, they all mentioned some degree of unwanted behavior on the app. So I do think it's the majority of people who are on dating apps experience something that they don't like. But we also did see a pattern around people who identified as women and gender diverse people were experiencing more harm and taking more actions to keep themselves safe online.
I know it shouldn't be this way, but is the assumption on most users that they have to do the labor of staying safe on these apps? They got to do the research. They got to turn on the security features. They got to be proactive and block people. Is that the basic way that people are looking at this, that they got to do that work?
100%. So people were doing a lot of what we call personal safety work online. So they were putting in measures to keep themselves safe, but yet a boundary that they were putting up, invoking the safety features that were online telling people when they were going out on dates or talking to somebody new, making sure that they had their own safety measures in place. And that's part of what we wanted to do with this app. People were in our interviews were telling us about how much time and effort that was taking. And for some of them, it was enough that they were deciding to get off the apps. So what we wanted to do with this safety map is put some of this work, take it off the hands of users and do it for them and put it in an interactive, dynamic forum so that they could go online and figure out some of those safety features without so much personal work to them.
I was poking around with it during the commercial break. You analyzed these safety features across many different dating apps, some 30 odd, I believe. Were there surprises when you compared them? For example, did certain apps feel safer than others or look much safer than others on paper?
Yeah, well, what was surprising were some apps were quite transparent about some of the safety features and community guidelines and policies that they put in place, whereas other apps were much less transparent about what they do, if anything. So we were just happy to compile that information. And you're right, we did so across 30 different apps, those that were most popular in Canada. We added in some diversity for different ages, races, ethnicities, sexual identity, so that we had some diversity of apps within our group. But over the 30, we found some were more transparent about the safety features that they put in place versus others.
What were some of the other things that came up in these users that you interviewed? Did swipe fatigue come up? That's something we talk about a lot on this show. Just getting completely overwhelmed and not bored, but just totally stressed out and overwhelmed by these apps and how much, like, I don't know, there is to do on them and people to swipe through.
Yeah, for sure. Swipe fatigue came up quite a bit, but the fatigue was inextricably linked to this safety work that people were doing. So people who identified as women and gender diverse were much, much, much more likely to say, I'm getting really tired of the effort I have to put in to keep myself safe, the amount of profiles that I have to go through, the work I put in terms of setting up boundaries and trying to decide if I'm going to actually meet somebody in person, and feeling frustrated with the quality of interactions that they were having online.
So how can I have a better experience on a dating app, quite generally, or if I'm one of these groups you mentioned? Like, what are some recommendations that you have? You've got the safety map. Just pick the one that works best for you, or are there things or features that exist that people don't know about or aren't using?
Well, one of the things that we wanted to do with the safety map was put a blurb around at the top of each app that we review. We have a little blurb that gives you an overview of what that app specializes in. So one of the ways that we can encourage people to make best use of their time on the app is to pick the one that's going to do what they want it to do. So if you're looking for a more casual encounter, you can look on the safety map and look for an app that is going to facilitate those more casual type of connections. If you're looking to date more seriously or looking for a relationship, you can find an app that is geared towards that. Or, for example, if you're in a particular age group, so if you wanted to find the silver singles, for example, that's for people over a certain age, so that you're not wasting your time on an app that isn't really going to be a good fit for you. And so that might help address some of the fatigue that people experience.
What I love about this map is it shifts safety from being something that an individual feels like they have to carry to kind of something collective. Don't you wish this is something that these app developers had, like some safety label or some consistent thing that could help users? It feels very ad hoc right now, the app landscape.
Oh, 100%. And that was part of what came up in our interviews, is that people felt and experienced and were doing the work themselves. And what we wanted to do is say, hey, some of that work should be removed from individual users and should be taken more seriously, both by society and by the dating app companies. So we did that work for them in terms of putting that comparative tool in the hands of users. It's free, it's accessible, it's up to date, and now they can have some of that work done for them.
I don't know how well our show tests in the demographic of app creators, dating app creators, but if there is one listening, like if you could design a dating app from scratch with safety at the center without losing the core audience or changing what the app is about, what would some things you would recommend to app authors be?
Well, I would love for that person to reach out because what we would love to do is take this map and turn it into an app. So it could be the foundation of an app that would foreground safety. So I think some of the things that need to keep in mind are the ways that people communicate, ensuring that pictures are not shared or video are not shared if people don't want them. We really want to foreground people who are going to create profiles that people can read and take seriously. So moving off of just picture-based swiping into more content-based swiping, be very clear about the safety features that they have and enforcing them and taking it seriously and taking action if there are breaches of those safety features. So there's lots of different things that the app companies could do to ensure people actually want to be on the app and getting the outcome that they're looking for.
Diana Parry is a health professor at the University of Waterloo. Diana, where can people find this safety map for online dating on the internet?
They can go to Coder, CODER-research.com. That's our website where we host the safety map. And at the top of that website, they'll see a link to the safety map and they can click on it and get right on that.
Diana, I appreciate your time. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Here's what's coming up. ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. They're all chatbots, large language models, and the war between them is heating up. But if you switch AI assistants, what do you gain? What do you lose? There are trade-offs between platforms, and with many people switching providers because of controversies, you'll want to know what they are. So stay with us. You'll find out.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
This episode is brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. No matter how you do game day, on the couch, in the crowd, or manning the snack table, Athletic Brewing fits right in. With a full lineup of non-alcoholic beer styles, you can enjoy bold flavors all game long. No hangovers, no buzz, no subbing out for water in the second half. Stock the fridge for tip-off with a variety of non-alcoholic craft styles available at your local grocery store or online at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, fit for all times.
We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The last show with David Cooper.
Is which chatbot you use, which large language model you trust to answer your questions, becoming a heated debate like pineapple belonging on pizza? Things like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. Turns out switching bots can come with surprisingly real trade-offs. I'm here with someone who has recently written about this for Business Insider, where he is a reporter. His name is Henry Chandonnet. Henry, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Let's set the stage here a little bit. OpenAI, Anthropic, and the US Pentagon has suddenly made people reconsider which chatbot they are using. What exactly has been happening for those who haven't heard?
Yeah, so there's been this pretty long battle between Anthropic and the DoD, the Department of Defense, over the contract to use their technology, right? There was a movement to have more red lines in the contract to know specifically how the DoD would be using Anthropic's large language model and other tools. And eventually the talks fell apart, right? President Trump says the US government shouldn't be using Anthropic's tech at all. Just today, actually, a couple of hours ago, Anthropic sued the DoD. So those have almost entirely stalled. Meanwhile, almost immediately after the Anthropic's talks stalled with the DoD, OpenAI swoops in. They land an agreement, and there's a pretty immediate backlash, right? It looks to at least some users, like OpenAI, were willing to accept some of the agreements that Anthropic wasn't. It's not clear. OpenAI would say, no, we have hard red lines, and we have a contract that we think is fair and safe and ethical. But there was this pretty immediate backlash, right? Some staff have left citing it, and there was a movement, I think, to reconsider which chatbot you're using, and for people who were following it closely, maybe even to consider Anthropic over OpenAI.
And I think the fear of some users would be like the government's using these large language models, I don't know, to plan warfare or make decisions about immigration enforcement actions, like hot button issues. They're hoping that these AI companies won't have their large language models assisting the government in these things. Is that kind of the fear of some users?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the user, right? The red lines are just that they want to know more about about how the government is using it and about the specifics, right? There are large language models that are assisting the government in things like immigration and defense and all of that. That already exists. The question is just to what extent and how specifically.
Now, to the users that are off-put by these announcements or happy that Anthropic, the deal's falling apart because it feels like they have some morals. I mean, side note, I do question the CEO of any large language model company, whether they have morals, but maybe that's a discussion for someone else. For the users that are happy with one company and not happy with another, what kind of switch are we seeing?
Yeah, so Claude pretty immediately surged in the App Store, right? Claude is Anthropic's chatbot. It went to #1 in the free app charts. That is a ranking that has pretty much been dominated by ChatGPT for a couple of years at this point. It's been really hard to dethrone ChatGPT. And so it's a pretty clear sign that there's been some movement, right? That people are moving to Claude, or at least they are more interested in Claude after this news cycle. There's also been a pretty significant push from Anthropic to get people over there. You can see some messaging from Anthropic of, it's so easy to change chatbots, or just get this version of your user history and all of the data that ChatGPT has will then come over to Claude. So they're also trying to bring people over, or say, if you care about this, come to us.
So that's the stage. For someone who's never used any of these tools, who walk in cold, maybe they want help with their granny's apple pie recipe, or in my mom's case, her chopped liver and brisket. What is the difference between these tools, like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini? Is there a vibe or a personality to each one that's slightly different?
Yeah, there's a bunch of differences, right? The basic level is that these are all chatbots, right? They are all AIs that you can communicate with primarily through text. They also all have voice mode, so you can communicate them through audio or through speaking to them. The primary difference, I would say, is about photo and video generation, right? Anthropic's Claude is almost entirely a text model. It can do some photo analysis, but if you say, make me a photo of, say, your granny's apple pie, it's not going to be able to do that. Whereas OpenAI's can, as can Google's Gemini. Then there's the personality difference and the kind of vibe difference that you were referencing that I think a lot of people care about, right? You hear a lot that maybe ChatGPT talks to you like a friend, where Claude talks to you like a colleague, or maybe to some extent even a manager, right? I think that a lot of people understand Claude to be more professional, more buttoned up. And to some extent, that's nice, right? We've seen these kind of downstream effects of ChatGPT being so friendly. But also, some people want the advice from a chatbot who can speak so kindly and who feels like they know them. So it's all based on personal preference.
So if you want a demonstrably bad therapist, because there have been studies for those who use ChatGPT as a therapist, maybe you want that one. If you want one like a professional assistant, or maybe like professional style writing, maybe it's Claude. Where does Google's Gemini fit in?
Yeah, Google's Gemini has a lot. And I think, honestly, as we see these AI chatbots pop up, because ChatGPT and Claude feel so new, Gemini sometimes flies under the radar. But it has most of the tech functionality that both of them have. And on top of that, right, it's integrated with Google, which is big for a lot of users, right? It's nice to be able to have the chatbot right there when you're searching, or when you're using Gmail, or when you're looking at your calendar, right? Those are workflows that we often already have. And so having Gemini right there can be helpful. Beyond that, right, there's the really fun uses. Gemini is the only one that can make music, which I think is fun. Beyond that, there's a little bit of a personality difference. Gemini can be maybe more leaning to the buttoned up Claude side of it, but that is really kind of how you have the conversation with it.
For those that can't bear to add another random Silicon Valley tech company to their $20 a month bill, like, yet another subscription, which one offers the best free version? Because I feel like that is hugely important here.
Yeah, they all have really substantive free capabilities, right? The things that you often pay for are the extra things that make it more professional, that I think that like average chatbot messenger is not really dealing with, right? There's the idea of like a rate limit or just how many messages that you can send, but they're pretty high. You would have to be messaging a lot to hit it. And then there's things like these extra features, like a coding assistant. Both OpenAI and Anthropic have coding assistants that are really popular in software engineering. But like, if you're just messaging about what recipe to make based off of the ingredients in my fridge, you probably don't need it. Video generation, image generation are free. The free options are almost substantive to cover anything that the average user would need. It's pretty across the board.
Now, back to our original conversation, ending on a serious note, values and ethics, like if I want to use a large language model that causes no harm, that can't be used by governments or corporations for discrimination or defense decisions, what might be my best option right now?
Yeah, look, it really depends on the user. What we can say, right, is that OpenAI has an agreement with the Department of Defense. That is true. That is clear. Beyond that, exactly what that agreement looks like, how the red lines are drawn, whether that's better than the red lines that Anthropic was wanting to draw with the DoD, is kind of person to person. I would really recommend. Sam Altman did like a big Q&A on his X feed where he answered a lot of questions, and not only that, but he clarified more specifically the red lines that he was drawing. And if you want to make a decision, read through those and see how you feel about it. That's a great way to make the judgment call.
That's the CEO of OpenAI. Well, I'm here with Henry Chandonnet, a reporter at Business Insider. Read more about this topic on his article, Thinking of Switching Chatbots. Here's which features you'd gain or lose. That's in Business Insider. Henry, this has been a joy. Thanks for talking to me today.
Yeah, thank you.
After the break, all natural labeled on the food you buy. Is it healthy or just clever marketing? What does the science say? That in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
Sierra has all the best active and outdoor brands you need. From athletic stuff, like a full court pickup game, swish, to athletic-ish stuff, like a half-mile stroll. Get those steps in. And for morning hikes up the mountain trail, good pace. To nighttime ghost stories from the camping chair. What a twist. Whatever level of active, Sierra loves it all. Head to Sierra or Sierra.com for the brands you want at the prices that let you do it all. From athletic to athletic-ish, Sierra's got it.
Taste the forbidden fruit of knowledge. The last show with David Cooper.
Natural, healthy. If you see those labels on the food you buy, you'd think it would sound wholesome, earthy, like it was made by some smiling farmer instead of a food company's marketing department. But surprise, a new study suggests those feel-good food labels might be a little deceptive and not mean what you think they do. I am joined by economist and professor at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, Christoph Bauner, who's done research in this area. Christoph, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, David.
So when I walk through the grocery store and I see labels on food like all natural, non-GMO, it feels like I'm being handed a sort of shortcut to say this food is good for me. It's nutritious. I do wonder, though, is this just a trick that food companies' marketing departments are playing on this? How much truth is there to these labels? And how nutritious is the food that is labeled this way?
Well, I wouldn't want to use the term trick because I wouldn't want to suggest that firms are being deliberately deceptive. What happens is food companies are putting on natural claims, and they're saying a specific thing. They're saying this product has been produced without artificial ingredients or some version of that. Now, the problem comes in that many people, like you just mentioned, consider that this natural product should be more nutritious than others. And that's not necessarily the case. That's exactly what we're looking at in this study. And we're comparing a content of specific nutrients like sodium, like saturated fat, like protein. And we don't really find significant differences between products with a natural claim and without a natural claim.
So looking under the hood here, foods that are labeled natural, not necessarily being more nutritious than regular food or the conventional versions. Were you surprised by this? As a consumer, naively, I would think that it is more nutritious.
Well, exactly. I think exactly a kind of problem that we stumble upon. We weren't in a way that surprised by it. There is research that we've seen before that discussed something they termed the health halo of natural products. So a health halo means exactly what I mentioned, that we're looking at a label that tells us one thing, but we are attributing to it other positive characteristics. In this case, that we think the product is more nutritious than it is. And that's exactly what we're finding here as well, that these claims just do not say that the product is more nutritious than other products.
This label natural, I was reading about something the other day. It's called chemophobia. And I know that sounds like a fancy word, but it just means this irrational fear of anything that we perceive to be a chemical, which doesn't really make sense when you think about it. All food is chemicals. All compounds in every food, organic or not, are chemicals. Could that be something that marketers are playing into? This idea that like, oh, our food doesn't have chemicals without a clear definition of what chemicals are and what that means.
Yes, I certainly think that can be part of why we see these claims. And what's important here is that, look, if you want to avoid chemicals, however you define those, that's perfectly fine. And the claims do give you some information about them. Now, most of these natural claims are not regulated. The exception of the ones we look at is the USDA organic label that is well regulated. So it can sometimes be a little bit sketchy as to what exactly that means. The definitions aren't necessarily clear when someone says all natural. But yes, that's absolutely the kind of direction that food companies go with these ideas. That's why they put them onto their packages.
So you looked at categories involving, I don't know, yogurt, ice cream, bread, nut spreads, other things like this. Were there any examples where a food that was labeled natural was actually less nutritious than a conventional one?
Well, yes, we have seen those. We haven't seen it systematically enough, though, that I would really want to say that natural foods are worse for you than others. But we have seen, for instance, that natural breads contain less fiber than products that are not labeled natural in our sample. Again, it's not systematically enough in our analysis that I would say that's necessarily something that I expect to hold everywhere.
Now, I know that added sugar isn't necessarily great for you in a food, but the alternatives like non-sugar sweeteners, you could potentially label something as like healthier and then put things like aspartame or stevia in it. So in an attempt to label things as more nutritious, they could actually be less nutritious? Is this something that can crop up?
Exactly like you mentioned, added sugar is problematic. That's been established. It's really bad for our health. And therefore, there are labels that try to direct us toward the healthier options. One of them is the FDA healthier label that you may have seen on your products. And they take added sugar into account. If you have more added sugar, it's harder to qualify for the label. The problem that comes with that is that, yes, if you want to keep your product sweet, how do you do that? You use sugar substitutes, something like aspartame, something like stevia. And these products, we don't really know how good or bad they are for your health. That's really where the issue comes in. There's some research that links sugar substitutes to severe health conditions, cardiovascular disease, for instance. This isn't established enough and isn't clear enough that we know for sure yet that's a problem. But there's enough that the WHO actually issued a warning a couple of years ago and said, well, you probably shouldn't use these products. It's a conditional warning, exactly because the science isn't entirely there yet. But from our perspective, what we are wondering about is that, look, if we have doubts about sugar substitutes, do we want to set incentives to bring them into our foods?
It's interesting, the incentive there. It's sort of like a food marketer is trying to game the label system rather than focusing on actual nutrition in order to get that healthy stamp. They're putting in non-sugar sweeteners, which may or may not be good for you, but looks like there's that warning. It's kind of odd incentives for how we label our food, isn't it?
Yes. So the incentives play a huge role here. From a policymaker's perspective, we need to think about, of course, is what's worse. Is it the added sugar? Is it a sugar substitute? And there's research certainly for both pointing to them being negative for our health. So a better option, if we can find policy to support that, would be to just move away from products that are overly sweet and try to get toward products that maybe use neither or at least less of sugar substitutes or of added sugar.
Now, there is a regulated food labeling system, and that's the nutrition labels on most foods, which can sometimes be at odds with some of the healthy claims like, natural, all natural, this. These two systems, do they end up confusing customers when they're not quite in alignment? For example, if the nutrition label says it's loaded with fat, but the packaging says, oh, it's all natural and healthy and organic and all this kind of stuff. Does this just confuse consumers more?
So that's a great question. And we haven't specifically looked at whether the interaction of those two different kinds of labels and claims confuses consumers. But what is established is that, yes, consumers do get confused sometimes by the natural claims. That's the health halo that I mentioned before. And also the healthy labels, they provide a great shortcut toward getting toward a healthier product. In general terms, if you're trying to avoid sodium, if you're trying to avoid added sugar, you want to get fibers. They can really steer you toward that, but it also can steer you toward products that use sugar substitutes.
For anyone listening who doesn't have like a PhD in nutrition or economics, is there a simple way to avoid being fooled by these labels in the wild? Is there any trick that you would want a consumer to know?
I don't think there's really a great trick. What I really want your listeners to take away from this is to know what the labels tell them and what they don't tell them. And the healthy label doesn't tell them that there's no non-nutritive sweetener, no sugar substitute in it. The natural claim does not tell them anything about nutrition. So if you are interested in that, look, if you think about sugar substitutes, go back to ingredients. Look at the ingredients list. It's there. I understand it takes some time, but the information is there and you can work it out. If you're interested in nutrition facts, that's there. They list how much sodium there is. They list how much protein there is in the product.
Well, Christoph Bauner is an economist and professor at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. Christoph, thank you for joining me. I've enjoyed the chat.
Thank you so much for having me, David. That was fun.
Hey, listener, do you like what you've been hearing and want to see video clips of it? Well, you can follow The Last Show on social media. We're on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and more. Our handle on those platforms is lastshow.pizza. That's lastshow.pizza. Yes, I know you've been hearing the show, but if you watch video clips of it, you'll see academics with multiple degrees try to unpack my dumb questions. Watch the reactions on their face. Our handle again, lastshow.pizza on social media. Give us a follow or a subscribe. Coming up after the break, the secrets of people who seek affairs online and use platforms like Ashley Madison. Why do they cheat? Why don't they regret it? What's the psychology behind it all? That in a moment.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Explore your deepest desires, if you dare. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Ashley Madison, the dating website built for people who are already taken, which sounds either diabolical or extremely efficient. What does the research say about the people who use it, who cheat, justify it, and then feel totally fine about what they've done? Although some may not, some may feel guilty. But we'll get to that in a second. We're here to discuss all this with social psychology researcher at Heterodox Academy, Dylan Selterman. Dylan, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So the very existence of a platform like Ashley Madison feels almost like a social experiment to me in human temptation. What does it say about us that millions of people are signing up for a service like this designed for affairs?
It means that a lot of people are cheating on their significant others. It means that infidelity and adultery are common. Certainly not everyone cheats, but, a lot of people do.
I think a lot of us pretend that we don't, but throughout all of human history, cheating it's not been an uncommon thing. But the data breach in 2015, for those who don't remember, like many, if not all of the users who'd used the platform or ever signed up were posted online. And I think there was a lot of shocks there, right? Like a lot of people got looked up, people respected in their communities were found on the website.
Yep.
Having that real data of millions of users, did scientists look into that so they could kind of study infidelity?
Yeah, I mean, people looked into what people were doing on Ashley Madison. That was, part of my research as well, was trying to figure out what are people hoping to gain by signing up and looking for an affair partner on Ashley Madison. And we find that, a lot of people are just they're looking for a sex partner. They're dissatisfied with their primary relationships in a sense because they're not having sex. That was one of the key findings from our research, was that I think about 50%, so like half of our participants said that they were not sexually active at all with their partners. But their relationships were otherwise at least decent, if not good. They expressed high levels of satisfaction, high levels of romantic love and intimacy with their partners. So their relationships were otherwise, I think, at least moderately well functioning, if not highly functioning. It was the sexual dissatisfaction that was a key factor for those folks.
There's a small fraction of relationships that report being happy, even though they know their partners are with other people. What do they call it? Like polyamory or open relationships. But I imagine those people aren't on Ashley Madison. This is a website for really finding a person in secrecy. How can someone say that, like, I love my partner and then sign up for an affair website when they know that their partner would be devastated if they found out?
Well, let me say something first about the people in polyamorous or open relationships. We did find some of those in our sample that signed up on Ashley Madison. So it was not very common, but I think between 15 and 20% of the participants in our sample told us that they knew, or their partners knew, that they were on the site. And so they had some kind of understanding with their partners that they were doing this.
I can see how someone like that could say that they love their partner if there's the communication. Sure. But if I'm talking about the ones that don't, like, it's wild to me that you can report being in love and satisfied and happy and all that and still do this. Like, why would people do that?
Love is complicated, and people are complicated. And in a sense, I think if you think about love as intimacy and connection and attachment, those things can be there, especially for people who have spent the majority of their adult lives married to their spouse. And that doesn't go away just because you have an affair. It could be that the affair is just motivated by something different. It's not about love.
I think for young people, they often say like sex and sexual satisfaction is paramount to the importance of a relationship. But as we age, that kind of falls by the wayside. People say it's less important. It's more about your family or your kids or how well you know each other or having a best friend or all that. I recently spoke to someone who interviewed people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s for a psychology study. And their paper basically showed that the elderly are still doing it, and it's still as important as young people. Do we underestimate how central sex is to relationship satisfaction?
Maybe. I think, humans are very horny sexual creatures. We have sex even in situations when we know that procreation is impossible, which is uncommon in the animal kingdom. So we're doing it all throughout our lives, all throughout the day, all throughout the month, all the time. And that's, in part because sex is just intrinsically good. It's pleasurable, and it helps us in terms of connection and bonding. So yeah, people of all ages are having lots of sex.
I would imagine if I used a platform like this, and side note to my girlfriend Miranda, if you're listening, I'm not on the platform, but I would imagine feeling a lot of regret if something like this happened in secret. Do the people who use these platforms report having regret after these affairs, or do they just kind of do this thing that humans are so good at doing, which is like push it out of your head, don't think of it, cognitive dissonance, all that?
Of the people we surveyed who said that they had an affair, meaning they signed up and actually met an affair partner and did the deed, on average, those people said that they were highly satisfied in emotional terms and in sexual terms and felt little regret. So that doesn't mean nobody felt regret. It just means on average, the people who were there felt like they were not doing anything wrong.
There's like a disconnect here, because the narratives we tell about ourselves is someone in that position, even if they don't get caught, should feel regret. But yet, on average, like you say, not everyone, but on average, people aren't. How do we explain this kind of gap between what we would expect people to feel and what people do feel?
That's a great question in general for us to answer from a moral perspective. Like, why do people do things that they think are immoral in a general sense? Because if you look at national surveys, the vast majority of people, like over 90%, will say infidelity is wrong. And yet you have the occurrence of affairs. And so it could be that people are trying to justify it somehow in their minds. They're trying to carve out some kind of exception. Maybe they're cheating because they feel like they have no other option. You know, they feel like sex is important to them and their partner doesn't want to have sex and they don't want to break up their relationships. They're going to do the least bad thing possible, which is to have an affair. So it could be that. It could be that, maybe they found out their partner was cheating and they thought, well, now I have a free pass to go and do it. And it could be that they feel like infidelity is generally wrong, but in this specific situation, maybe it's okay. They're kind of, doing some mental gymnastics there. The truth is that we don't really know to the extent to which people are going through those kind of mental gymnastics, because it's hard to assess that on a one-time survey.
Now, did mate poaching come up? Like, is that something that happens on Ashley Madison? You meet someone, you think it's going to be discreet, and then all of a sudden you find yourself out of your marriage, out of your long-term relationship, and in a new relationship, not expecting that to happen because the person pursued you in a way that was different than what you agreed to meet up for the first place.
That's an interesting idea. Some people do have affairs as a way to test the waters and explore what else is out there in terms of possibilities before breaking up with their partner. So it could be a chicken or an egg kind of thing. I mean, poaching seems to imply that everything was going well and then some seductress just swoops in and grabs you from your partner. And I think it's more like an interplay where someone's initially dissatisfied in some sense with their relationship. Most people, though, if they have a one-time affair, they might not want to break up and end their relationship. I think the people who stay together are the ones who have this kind of initially high level of commitment and intimacy, and they're just, not necessarily sexually satisfied.
After the big data leak in 2015, the public was so ready to name, shame, guilt, blame, punish those in the list of people on Ashley Madison. Why are we, the public, maybe not you and me, but why are we so eager to morally punish people who cheat?
Yeah, I think in general, people are excited about condemning those that they feel have done something morally wrong. There's something like a moral righteousness that people have when they have successfully identified the rule breakers to try to shame them. But of course, again, we know that infidelity it's common. It does happen. So it's the kind of thing where you're asking a majority of people to think about this thing that's common, but we don't want to believe that it's common. We want to believe that it's rare. So, and only the bad people do it. It kind of helps us make sense of the world. Like, those who cheat, they're bad and we should punish them somehow.
Well, Dylan Selterman is a social psychology researcher. He works at Heterodox Academy. Dylan, I've enjoyed the chat. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
In just a few moments' time, neighbors. Are you a good neighbor? Are you friends with your neighbor? Should you leave your neighbor alone, or should you be buddy-buddy with them? I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show. What's your opinion of neighbors? Up next.
Broadcasting from the intersection of chaos and more chaos. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Should you be a good neighbor? Should you get to know your neighbors? Just look at the Bible. It says be a good neighbor, probably. I don't know, I haven't read it, but we're here joined by Brad Smith, the host of No BS with Brad Smith on Chorus's radio network, to discuss just this. He's a former football player, probably. I don't know, I never watched you play a game. Brad, welcome to the show.
No one ever did. I sat on unless you were 4 rows back behind the home bench, no one ever knew that I was actually a football player.
I bet you my old boss from Phoenix, Arizona, who's never been to Canada, knows exactly who you are. This guy watches every sport.
Really?
And he knows everything about every sport, from curling to tennis. He loves Canadian football. It's not because he loves it specifically. It's just he loves every sport and knows everything about it. I bet you this guy would know you.
That's an issue, but it sounds like Dodgeball, you know, the movie where everyone watches ESPN The Ocho with all the obscure sports. It's like, well, this guy's just trying to find and consume whatever he can.
Exactly. Yes, I never watched Dodgeball. Any good?
What?
I'm sorry, man. Okay, let's get to the topic. Before we get off topic, you can't get off topic without being on topic first, Brad.
Yes, sir.
You confessed to me at the commercial break that you've never befriended a neighbor, ever.
Not once. Not once.
That makes you a piece of you-know-what. Why not?
No, I think I'm a really good guy and I'm great to people. It's just I never want people in my space or my privacy or knowing my things. I've lived in a condo building that was next to a guy I went to high school with, and I didn't talk to him for 3 years.
What's wrong with you? What if there's an emergency? What if the upstairs pipe breaks and you're out of country or something?
Here's the thing. My ADHD doesn't let me tolerate small talk sometimes, which is so ironic. And I just don't want to get into that a casual conversation in the elevator, in the hallway. How are you? It doesn't, I don't know what it doesn't fulfill me. And it makes me kind of like agitated. So I just kind of like pick and choose my spaces. But like I moved into a house here in Toronto, which is like an old brownstone like they got in New York, split into two, right? I love the person on top, but that's because we never talk.
I've got this all mapped out for you. First of all, you should talk to your neighbors. And second of all, you got to get better about setting boundaries with strangers. Like if in the elevator, Susie and Bob want to chat and I'm in a rush, I say, hey guys, I'm really happy to see you, but I'm in a rush. I can't do small talk today. Why can't you just say that and then you can also be friends with your neighbor?
What if you have 20 floors to go down? That's a long time to say I can't talk and then sit in the corner and just kind of be awkward.
You have to use passing gas as a form of aggression in the elevator. I've done it.
Too late. That's my go-to.
Look, I love befriending my neighbors because then I feel like I have someone to call. Like if there's an emergency and they need to check on my cat or something, I like giving a neighbor a key just in case they need to get in there and help out with something. Yeah, why not?
You're full in.
I'm in. But I haven't always been the best neighbor.
Okay, well, see, like, if someone asks me to do something, like if Kelly upstairs asks me to do something, I'll do it. Anything that she wants. Maybe not in that moment, but I'll definitely do it. But I don't know what it is, Dave. I just don't want, my privacy is like just so important to me. I think it's because I grew up in a really small town where the houses were actually like an acre away from you. So there was never like a situation where you walked over unless it was a best friend on the street. So I just never acclimatized to the city life, I guess.
I once had a break-in, okay? And so I lived in San Francisco and the area was like gentrified. In my building, mostly yuppies. I worked for a tech company, but one of the tenants who was rent-controlled had been there for like 40 years. This guy named Milton, and I love him to death. Yeah. And he was not like these yuppies, okay? And I was Milton's good buddy. We would talk, we would have coffee, this, that, and the other. One night we had a break-in in our unit. The guy kicked in my back door. I was zonked out on sleeping medication. My girlfriend confronts the intruder with a stool over her head. Okay, she's like 2'8". The guy like runs out. He was just like a guy who was too high, I think. He wasn't really looking for hurting anyone or anything.
Just having a good time.
Just having a good time screaming. He like runs out when she charges him. He trips and hurts himself. My neighbor Milton, this guy in his like late 60s, pins the guy down, waits for the cops, makes sure everything's okay. We were just standing there paralyzed out of fear, and he like took charge of the situation. And when I thanked him, he said, "You're my neighbor, David. I would do anything for you." That's the kind of neighbor you want, Brad. And if you don't befriend them, you're not going to get that neighbor.
That was, you know what? I have the antithesis of that story, which I was just telling somebody the other day. I was watching the Olympics. One of the guys calling, his daughter went to, calling one of the games, his daughter went to university with me. They lived in co-ed dorms in first-year university right beside me. And you could have never met her and her roommate, two girls who hated me more as a human being. Like they, and then ever since first-year university, which was my first integrated with boys and girls, I don't know. Just don't know. Just stayed away. Can't do it. I don't have a Milton. I need a Milton.
I thought there was some story where there was like a break-in in their dorm and you just didn't help them. I thought that's where you're going with that.
No, I would have been asleep, not on sleeping pills. I would have been like, meh.
I've also like flooded my downstairs neighbor's apartment.
Have you?
My shower pressure wasn't working, and so I decided that I could be a DIY plumber. And you know, like the lever that turns on the shower, there was like a little screw, and it was really hard to get the screw out. And I'm starting to realize maybe that was for a reason. So I start like taking it apart, thinking I can fix it. My shower explodes in my face. So much water is gushing out. The drain can't keep up. It starts coming down through the floor. I throw on a bathrobe, but I don't really close it, so I'm kind of like naked, but maybe exposed. And these two poor girls downstairs, I'm like banging on their door. I'm like, you better get a trash bin. Water's gonna come in through the ceiling. I'm naked. I think they can see all of me. They're like, what is happening? Anyway, I help them. The water gets collected into a bucket. The whole building gets flooded. And then I told my landlord my shower just exploded in my face, which is partially true.
See, this is why I don't have neighbors. I just avoided two of the worst stories I've ever heard in my life.
How I got that security deposit back, I'll never know.
I just want to, you probably shocked those girls for the rest of their life.
Well, me and the girl always had like kind of a flirtation, but you know.
Oh, okay. So it was planned. Hey, what's up? What's up?
Yeah, I don't know.
My stuff's upstairs broken, as you can see from the water running down the back of your hall. But can you just take a look for a second and breathe David in?
I think there was so much chaos going on with water gushing through their light fixture that maybe they didn't notice. Isn't there a joy in being a good neighbor, like a sort of charitable joy, like helping someone or giving them? You've got too many cookies, you give them some cookies.
Listen, I mean, I'll shovel the walkway and the sidewalk. No, like, you know, I won't even think about it. I'll take out the garbage if it's like sitting there and it's full and it's not mine. But I don't know what it is. Like, okay, here's the actual fact. I've lived in condos my whole life, so you never hear anybody. In a house, you hear everything. And so I feel like I'm being listened to. I don't know. It's like a constant state of paranoia.
Well, you just kind of ignore it. Like, I'm certain my neighbors can hear me shouting as I do the show. I hear their baby crying.
I'm worried about something else, though, David, them hearing.
Adult activities?
Yes.
But that's a normal part of life. That's what you're supposed to do in your apartment. Who's going to judge you for that?
Have you ever heard yourself make those sounds, David? Nobody wants to do that.
No, I'm a traditional guy. I'm saving myself for divorce. I've never done that, which is weird because I am divorced, but that's not important. I wish you would at least try to have, what about like a nice dinner with your neighbor? During the pandemic, my neighbor and I would just have dinners with each other because we couldn't hang out with anyone else.
That sounds like my nightmare.
What did you do during the pandemic? You just stayed home?
I was in a relationship and we got along so well, so we just hung out the entire time.
Oh, man. The little neighbor bubble, that was such a special time and you didn't get to
You're really trying to push this on me.
I think, look, I get what you're saying about privacy and boundaries, but I think you can have that and still be a good neighbor.
Here's another bigger societal issue for me. I, again, am so, I'm a complete introvert. When I'm at home, I'm quiet. When I'm out the door, I'm snapping. I'm all over the place. When I come home, I just want to be that kind of quieted down version of myself.
You're an introvert extrovert, I guess.
So if I was with a neighbor, I would interact. I can't be quiet. I would go to that extrovert, and it's just a lot of energy.
Yeah, I mean, I think neighbors get it. Like,
I'm insecure, David.
Look, I'm like that too. There are moments where I wake up and I'm feeling agoraphobic. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to like experience the world. I don't want people to even know I'm alive. And when you're in that mood, even the neighbors that I'm friendly with kind of get it. You just say hello and keep moving about.
Oh, see, I don't like being not the best version of me. I don't know if that's an insecurity or not, but I always am when I go to work, when I'm at a building, when I'm on set, I'm always consistently at a level or above that, never below.
Here's the difference between you and me. I've been in therapy twice a week for the last 15 years. Have you been to therapy?
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Then I thought
Since
maybe
I was 21 years old. But listen, you're trying to get me to push my boundaries here. I'm setting them. You just told me to do that.
Fair enough.
No neighbors. No neighbors.
All right. Well, we're doing lots of BS here with Brad Smith. He's got a show called No BS on the very network you're hearing this show right now. We'll be back with more of him. And what are we going to talk about when we come back?
Bad Neighbors Part 2.
Bad Neighbors Part 2 or something else.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. This is your nightly dose of chaos, confession, and questionable life choices. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Is it rude to ask your neighbors to turn down their music, especially when they're blaring it at hours where it's okay, like during the day or not so late in the evening? That is what we're going to discuss here with Brad Smith, a radio host, a former football player, a handsome man, and a man who generally does not like his neighbors. He's got a show on the very network you're listening to this program called No BS with Brad Smith. When does that air, Brad?
9 to 12. Weekdays.
9 to 12. Oh, look at that. That's so great in the morning. Look at you.
Had to adjust the sleeping schedule. Still not used to it. But guess what? Waking up at 4:45, I heard was a power move.
You should try evenings. It's a nice life. You don't get dinner though, which is you get a late dinner is all.
You know what though? I will say is that before I was doing 3 to 6 a lot, right, in the afternoons, and like you get home and your day's done. I feel like now when you're getting home at 1:30, your 8 hours is done. You feel like the days are longer. Like how much time was I wasting before?
That's the great question, neighbor. See, we got to get on topic before we get off topic.
Yes, sir.
I keep telling you this. Stop calling me sir. I didn't grow up in like the south of the U.S. or whatever.
Manners.
You're the one who won't be friends with your neighbors, and you're talking about manners.
It's true.
I am a firm believer that you're allowed to be somewhat loud in your space. Before the break, you were talking about your neighbors hearing you engage in adult activities. I think that's just something you have to accept. Like you're going to be that guy who throws the party and blares the music.
Yeah.
And then the next week it's going to be your neighbor. And if you live in a building with thin walls, you just got to like bite the bullet. My downstairs neighbor, she has the occasional cigarette, and I checked the bylaws of my building. There's no smoking bylaw, so I actually can't tell her to stop. And I'm like, look, I smell a little, it's awful, I hate it, but I smell a little smoke once a month. I'm not going to complain about it. If she needs to have a ciggy every now and again, I hate it, but she can do that. And then I get to have my party and she doesn't complain about that. And we live and let live. That is kind of my opinion. Some people don't agree with me at all. They're the ones banging on the door the second you play music at any volume. Where do you stand on this issue?
Firstly, your story brings out the French Canadian in me because I would be by the radiator vents trying to smell the cigarette smoke. Secondly, again, like in condos in Toronto, I'm not sure how they build stuff in New York, David, but when you're in a Toronto condo, you don't hear anything.
A new build, but the old builds, they don't put like insulation. It's not like double drywalled and all that.
I've smoked weed in my condo like constantly. I've
Legally,
blared
I'm sure.
blared music. But again, I just moved into this brownstone, and I have the first floor in the basement, and the upstairs person has the third and fourth. Next thing you know, when I move in here, you're just like standard, right? Oh, it's a beautiful place, beautiful place. You move in and you realize someone lives above you. I swear to God, the first person that lived above me was wearing cement bricks because you could hear every single step he took. And I was like, a week in, I'm like, I don't think I can do this.
Did you say something? What did you do?
No, this is a true story. The worst thing happened. One day it stops, and they found the guy passed away in his bed.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Good guy too. I talked to him a few times. I did talk to a neighbor because we're friends with the owner of the house. Rest in peace, good guy. Moved in a nice young lady. Can't ever hear her.
She probably put down carpets, which is what I do in our bedroom and stuff.
But the noise, you got it. I think I'm kind of with you. Like maybe you should be allowed to do that, but I wouldn't do that because I'd be so hyper focused again on that and bothering that person's day.
I had a neighbor that our bedroom was below theirs. We would talk in bed like any couple.
Stop it.
Okay? We would literally just converse at a normal volume in bed at like 10 p.m. This guy would send an email to the whole building saying, if you're going to converse while you're in bed, do it in the front of the home. And I just refused. I'm like, that's insane. I'm going to talk to my girlfriend while I'm in bed.
Okay, so but you could hear upstairs. They could hear you. Could you hear anyone else around you? Was this like a communal thing where everybody on the floor is talking to one another?
Well, it was like one apartment per floor. So I didn't hear the basement guy, and I assume he didn't hear me. I heard them in their bedroom.
What you guys talk about?
I don't know anything. Just you don't talk to your girlfriend when you're laying in bed?
Of course I do, but I mean...
How was your day, honey? What do you think of this friend? I don't know anything.
I use the bed for something different there, David.
Well, no, by then we'd been dating for years, so that just stops after, the first 6 months. But I'm just like, I'm going to have a conversation with my girlfriend in bed, and I'm going to do it at a normal volume, and I've received your email. I will not shout, but I'm going to be talking in my bed at like 10 p.m. I wasn't doing it at 4 a.m.
Okay, here's a question. Besides from the last segment, Milton, the hero that saved your home intrusion.
Yeah.
Who's the best neighbor you've ever had?
My friend JJ, who used to call into my show when I was hosting an overnight program. I was always scared that I wouldn't get callers because I was on at like 2 a.m. and I'd throw to the phone.
I did that too at the beginning.
Yeah, so you throw to the phone at 2 a.m. on the radio and you're like, who's going to call? So I would text him. He'd be on the West Coast, so it'd only be 11 for him. And he would always be the first one to call my show. That's the power of a good neighbor. I was just getting my start in radio. I was terrified, staring down the barrel of a 10-minute call-in segment, not sure anyone would call, and wanting someone to seed the segment. And every night it's like, hey, it's JJ. Here's my thoughts on your topic. But that was after I moved out. When we lived together, he was my COVID neighbor who we would have dinners with. His son and him would come over. We would cook. He would cook. We had a nice little bubble. He was by far the best neighbor.
You're starting to convince me a little bit. I feel like I need to branch out here because you know what? I feel like I got so much to give.
Yeah. Be a good neighbor. Doesn't like the Bible say something about that? Don't you read the Bible, Brad, every night before bed?
I do. Me and Jesus are close, but here's the thing: is that I have this thing, and I do it often, probably like once a week, where I do smoke weed and I play Nintendo Switch. Now that is very juvenile, but when I do it, I turn off the Nintendo music and I blare my playlist on the loudspeaker. But once it gets to a certain time, then I start getting all self-conscious that I'm just ruining their day. Like there's nothing worse than when you've had like the worst long day, you've worked hard, and then some guy downstairs is blaring Rage Against the Machines.
I do karaoke when I throw house parties.
Do you?
Yeah.
What's your song?
Oh man, I do country oldies. I really suck the energy out of the room. I do show tunes. Cats, My Fair Lady, Little Shop of Horrors, Suddenly Seymour.
You tell people before?
No, yeah, yeah.
Like, no, in your building that you're going to make noise.
No, I don't. But I'm like, look, my friends are screaming at 3 a.m. I do it once every 3 months. Just deal with it. And then when your friends are screaming at 3 a.m. once every 3 months, as long as it's a weekend, who am I to complain?
Yeah, no, I get it. I think I feel like I've grown up sheltered now. Listening to you, I don't know where I became such a recluse here.
Where are we with dogs barking at all hours? Because that's where I'm like, oh my, because that's so hard for people. Like, how do you get your dogs to stop barking and yet your neighbors hate you? I fortunately have never dealt with a loud dog neighbor. I don't know what I would do.
I had one in my very first condo before I even had dogs, because I've had dogs my whole life, and it's atrocious. It is atrocious, especially the ones with separation anxiety, especially when they're in a 500 square foot condo for 8 hours. They're locked up.
And in some cases, the owners just don't even know, right? Because they're out.
Have no clue.
And the dogs are barking. My cat wails when I'm not home, but he's relatively quiet. He's a cat. Like how loud is a meow, really?
I had Kel from upstairs come down the first time we really crossed over, and she was like, "You have a dog?" Because I have a golden retriever, and she's like, "I'm like, yeah." She goes, "I've never heard her," and I was like, "Yeah, Charlie's barked maybe 10 times in her life." Like having that, they're like, I don't know if you have this with your cat, but do you know when they're like sick and you just can't help them, and you get that frustration level of like, I can't do anything, I can't do anything. I have that with my dog and her nails. She won't let me cut them, but when you're hearing someone else's dog bark through the door is the only time you can get me, Brad Smith, to want to football run through that door and go, what the hell do you think you're doing? There's other people living in here.
That's the great question. I don't know what you do with that. Well, Brad, you may not be a good house neighbor, but you're a great radio neighbor. You've got a show on the very network that people are listening to this one. It airs at 9 a.m. It's called No BS with Brad Smith, and I consider you a great radio neighbor, Brad. Thanks for being on my show.
Buddy, I love talking to you all the time.
Oh, what a joy.
Yeah, and just to screw you over then, thank you, Dave.
Oh, it's David, Brad. You know that.
I know.
Terrible neighbor. That is a wrap on our show. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to check out the Last Show podcast. To find it, search David Cooper Last Show on your favorite podcast app. Will pop up and you can subscribe. On the podcast, you can listen to entire nights of the show. Maybe you want to hear a show again, or catch an evening you missed, or listen to interviews that you loved again. If you learned something, you can even send that interview to a friend who could really use the knowledge you gained. I'm David Cooper. This was The Last Show. We'll be back tomorrow night.
My name is Mickey Fox.
Friday, February 27th on Global.
I'm Sheriff of Edgewater.
For her, keeping the peace
Cartels moving in.
means every investigation.
People are getting threats.
It's close to home.
At the end of the day, I'm responsible for this town.
Secrets, loyalties, and small-town justice collide in the new hit drama.
I'm a damn good sheriff.
Sheriff Country returns Friday, February 27th on Global. Stream on Stack TV.